Hey guys, my name is Amr and I'm going to take you through the basics of purchasing a home. I understand that making such a significant financial decision can be overwhelming, but I'm going to give you an overview of the whole process and provide you with some practical insights that you can actually use. So there are a few things that you'll definitely want to think about and things that you should consider, like the location, the neighborhood, the school system, the proximity to work. All these things are very important, but I'm not going to focus on those things today because they vary too much from person to person. Instead, I'm going to focus on the financial side only and provide a high level financial picture that you can actually work off of. So let's get into the financial side of things. So there are 5 areas that you're going to want to understand. They're the price range, the down payment, the mortgage, the GST and property transfer tax, and closing costs. So number 1 is price range. This is going to depend on a bunch of different factors that the bank will work out with you together, but these will include things like how much money you make, how much money you have saved, how much of a monthly payment you can afford, and how much other debt you currently have. I'll break down the 2 big items that affect everyone, which are how the down payment works and how the mortgage works. But before I get into that, I want to add that it's important to keep in mind, just because the bank says you can afford a $2 million house on paper doesn't mean that you need to buy a $2 million house. This is just the upper limit of your price range that's determined by the bank. And you should be buying based on what you need, not based on what the bank says that you can buy. Bottom line is that it's okay to spend less than you're approved for. Okay, let's get into the down payment. So whenever you purchase real estate, you will need to put up some money as a down payment. The minimum down payment amount will depend on the purchase price. And this is going to differ whether your purchase price is over or under $1 million. So for a home with a purchase price of $1 million or higher, you'll need a minimum of 20% down. It's easy to calculate. $1 million home will need 20% down, which is $200,000. Again, a $1.5 million home will still need 20% down, which is $300,000. Now, for a home with a purchase price of under $1 million, you can get away with less than 20% down. The minimum amount does change a little bit, so you'll need a minimum of 5% on the first $500,000 and then 10% on the amount between $500,000 and $1 million. So for example, a $500,000 purchase price, you need a 5% down payment, which is $25,000. On a $800,000 purchase price, you will need 5% down on the first $500,000, which is $25,000. And you'll need 10% on the remaining $300,000, which is $30,000, for a total down payment of $55,000. Now, if you do go down this route of putting down less than 20%, there are a few catches, and one of those is a requirement to get mortgage insurance, which can cost up to about 4% of the purchase price. So if we take the $500,000 purchase price, you pay the 5% down payment, which is $25,000, but you'll have to pay an additional 4% or $20,000 on top for mortgage insurance. Now, you don't have to pay this in cash. You can add it to your mortgage, but it's still money out of your pocket one way or another. So if we use the same example on a $500,000 purchase price, you put $25,000 as a down payment. Your mortgage is now $475,000, but then you have to add another $20,000 to your mortgage to pay for the insurance. So your mortgage amount actually is going to be going back up to $495,000 on your $500,000 purchase. Now, if you think about that, $495,000 mortgage on a $500,000 purchase price means that your loan to value is 99%. And that means you're extremely leveraged. On the other hand, if you put 20% down on the same $500,000 home, you don't have to pay the mortgage insurance and your loan to value is 80%. Which is a much healthier financial position to be in. Okay, on to the next item, the mortgage. So there are multiple things that will affect your ability to obtain a mortgage. The banks are going to look at 4 main things. So how much money you make, how much money you have saved up for a down payment, how much debt you currently have, and your credit rating. So how much money you make. So if you're on a salary, the banks will literally take this salary amount. They want to see your past few pay stubs and your last few notices of assessment or tax returns. And they'll use this to determine the amount of monthly payments they think you can afford. I just want to throw in side note for the folks that have their own businesses and maybe are paying themselves a dividend instead of a salary. For some reason, the bank doesn't always look at dividends the same way. This may have changed recently, but if you're looking to buy a house, you should have a quick chat with your mortgage broker and your accountant just to make sure they're on the same page and make sure that you're in a position where you can ensure a mortgage approval. So the next thing is how much money you have saved up for a down payment. The amount you can put towards the house as a down payment will affect your mortgage quite a bit. You should be aiming to put down at least 20%. And by doing this, you'll have a lower mortgage amount. You will typically get a better rate. You'll have the option of extending your amortization, and your monthly payment will be lower at the end of the day. And on top of that, not having mortgage insurance will put you in a better position overall with the bank. The third thing is how much debt you currently hold. So the amount of debt and type of debt you have will have a big impact on your ability to obtain a mortgage. Unsecured debt or debt on depreciating assets will have the biggest impact. So the most common example of a depreciating asset, which you can probably guess, is a car. If you have a car lease or a car loan, this will decrease the amount of mortgage you qualify for. Credit card debt and lines of credit will also have a negative impact on your ability to secure a mortgage. If your credit card debt has mounted and you're missing your minimum payments, the bank does not like this. It's so important to focus on these things and pay down this type of debt to keep your personal financial health in check. The last thing the banks will look at is your credit history. So are you making your payments on time? Is your credit card balance paid in full at the end of each billing cycle? Do you have any outstanding loans? These type of things will all affect your credit history. So the best thing to do is discuss this piece with a mortgage broker, especially if you're serious about purchasing. The bank will actually give you a pre-approval amount based on your current financial position, so you know what the maximum amount you can afford is. And now we're going to talk about GST and property transfer tax. Now, if you live in BC, there are two big items that a lot of people forget to factor into the purchase price, and they're GST and property transfer tax. They're both very straightforward, but can be easily forgotten about. So for GST, you just have to keep in mind that if you're purchasing a brand new home, you'll have to pay 5% GST based on the purchase price. Whereas if you purchase an older home, GST is not applicable. The thing about GST is you can roll the amount into your mortgage so you don't actually need to pay it in cash upfront. Property transfer tax, on the other hand, it will have to be paid in cash upfront. This is 2% of the purchase price, and like I said, must be paid in cash. It can't be rolled into your mortgage. And the way it actually works is it's 1% of the fair market value up to and including $200,000, 2% of the fair market value greater than $200,000, and up to and including $2 million, and then 3% of the fair market value greater than $2 million. There are exemptions for this, such as first-time home buyer, purpose-built rentals exemption, newly built home exemption, and the list goes on, but we'll just stick to this 2% rule for our purposes for now. So what that means is if you have a $1 million purchase price and you're putting 20% down payment, you will need $200,000 for the cash down payment, plus an additional 2% or $20,000 for the property transfer tax, which means your total cash requirement is actually $220,000. And now the last thing we're going to be discussing is closing costs. So talk about getting feed to death here. There are a bunch of other costs that you'll have to pay in order to close on a home purchase. I'll just list off a few fees here just to give you an idea. So there's a LOTA fee, there's a land titles fee, there's an admin fee, there's an insurance fee, there's a title guarantee fee, there's a legal fee for the notary, and the list goes on and on and on. In total, you can expect these fees to be under $5,000, but $5,000 would be a good estimate to use. And just for context, I dealt with a purchase about a year ago, and the purchase price of the home was $900,000, and the fees were just about $2,000. But the kicker is that you'll have to pay these in cash, so you'll want to factor this into your cash requirement. And as I said, I think a $5,000 buffer is probably safe for a purchase of up to $1.5 to $2 million. So that wraps up the 5 main financial areas, and I'll leave you guys with this. If I was looking to purchase a property right now, I would first get in touch with a mortgage broker and get a pre-approval on a mortgage amount. And second, I would probably get in touch with a realtor and start looking for houses. I hope this video helps. Please like, please subscribe, and thank you.